Hi, this is a video response to Derek regarding your proposal to increase the minimum wage to $10 across Canada. I really disagree with that. I think there's a consensus among the economists in Canada. 85% of the economists in Canada believe that an increase in the minimum wage results in a decrease in the level of employment. We do have a big productivity issue here in Canada. It affects our ability to compete in a global economy, but I don't believe that increasing the minimum wage is the solution. Let's look at new jobs. I think that an increase in the minimum wage hurts the people it's intended to help the most. You raise the cost to an employer for creating new minimum wage jobs, and as a result you lower the total number of minimum wage jobs that are delivered because an employer will now expect more. And if you look at existing jobs, it will put a lot of businesses in a crunch. There's many businesses, mostly small and medium-sized businesses, that operate on a very razor-thin margin. So if you increase one of their major costs, which is of course labor, it's possible that the company will look to decrease hours or will look to layoffs in existing jobs, and that's not reaching the solution which I think you're looking for. And I think if you look at the kind of people who are generally in minimum wage jobs, they are disproportionately unskilled, they're disproportionately young, and there's a very real possibility and likelihood that you're pushing these people out of a job. There's an element of cost push inflation when you move up the cost of labor for a company. The other thing I worry about is I know you're trying to combat poverty, and that's a very virtuous thing, but I think one of the best ways to combat poverty is through education, and it's been shown that whenever you increase the minimum wage, it's more likely that people in high school are going to drop out. Human Resources and Development Canada has said this, that an increase in the minimum wage increases the dropouts at high schools. I don't think that's the solution. I'm also worried that adding such an increase in a cost to a corporation in a free market, they'll have to reduce their costs elsewhere. And I'm worried that they claw back on on-the-job training, which helps a lot of low-income people in low-income jobs move upward and onward. I'm also worried that they'll claw back on extra benefits, and I don't think that's what you're looking for either. I think ultimately this is very much a regional issue. Across Canada there's very different economies, very different service sectors, and you have to look at all the regional differences, and it shouldn't be something that the federal government is deciding. I know you're doing a really good thing, you're trying to combat poverty, but I just disagree with the way you're going about it. And there's lots of other ways to reach the same ends, but through a very different means. I also have to question your proposal for an across-the-board decrease in funding for, the cost of education and tuition, I presume. I think it's great that you're talking about post-secondary education. I think there's so many barriers to access to the system, but I worry about an across-the-board cut. I would much rather see that money targeted. There's a lot of groups that are generally unrepresented or underrepresented in post-secondary education. Aboriginals, people with disabilities, people from rural communities, first generation Canadians trying to attend university for the first time in their family. I would rather that money be targeted towards those groups as well as low-income individuals. I think that sort of targeted approach is better than an across-the-board cut. So I just wanted to throw those ideas at you and hope we get a debate going here, because I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thanks.